Welcome to the first of our Sustainable Packaging Summit interactive Zoom sessions, in which the labelling experts from Avery Dennison will be discussing the challenges and strategies around clearing a pathway to a circular economy. We're joined today by Sam O'Keefe, who is Vice President for R&D at Label and Graphic Materials Europe in Avery Dennison, and Burak Sabez, who is Senior Marketing Director for Paper, Film and Sustainability in Labels and Packaging Materials Europe at Avery Dennison too. As I said, this is an interactive session and we're looking forward to engaging with you and answering your questions. So please share anything you'd like to ask our experts in the chat function and we'll address them at the end. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Sam O'Keefe.
Thanks, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to those of you who have participated in this session earlier today. You'll recognize my colleague, Burak, who I join now for an overview on how we work to the design for recycling philosophy in Avery Dennison. Sustainability is considered alongside technical performance in the products we develop. For those of you who don't know us, and I suspect most of you do, our world is a world of labels. So regarding sustainability, at the European level, we have many initiatives. We have the European Strategy for Plastics in the Circular Economy, which provides a framework along with legislation, guidelines, and the associative collaborative platforms such as the Circular Plastics Alliance. At the global level, we have key initiatives such as the United Nations Partnership on Marine Litter, the Basel Convention, Global Plastic Action Partnership, the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, the Platform for Accelerating Circular Economy, and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. In addition to this, we also have the Ecodesign initiative. This is a key initiative from the EU, driving us all towards consideration of the ecological impacts of the products we develop, and early at the design stage, not as an afterthought. Many studies have shown that 80% of the environmental impacts of a product are introduced at the design stage. So if we don't look at this at the beginning of a product development, then we're losing an opportunity and giving ourselves a headache for the next level on. In addition to those that I've already mentioned, we have the European Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan, which are both committed to tackle overpackaging and waste generation and to increase the level of recycled content of materials and reduce the virgin content. Mandatory recycled content regulations are imminent. For example, from 2025, each EU member state must ensure that PET bottles contain at least 25% recycled content as an average throughout their geography. And from 2030, this increases to 30% and applies to all single-use beverage bottles. In addition, we have the European Plastic Pact goal, where they've stated that they are aiming towards a reduction in all virgin plastic products and packaging by at least 30%, as opposed to 25%, by weight by 2025, with half of this reduction coming from an absolute reduction of plastics. So the challenge is clear. We know what we have to do. In parallel, the Circular Economy Action Plan proposes specific goals along with revised legislative proposals to encourage waste reduction. These include long-term recycling targets for municipal waste and packaging waste, landfill reduction, the EPR, extended producer responsibility schemes, and the simplification and harmonization of definitions and calculation methods. So as material manufacturers, this really prompts us to act. We're proactively reducing energy consumption, material grammage, water use in manufacture, emissions and waste in our business. And to this, we add the focus on recycled content and recyclability when we design our new products. Internally, we use an LCA approach each time we develop a new product. We look carefully at how to minimize the impact of our material selection and production process on both material in use and when it's recycled. With this in mind, we develop our products with the ecosystem and are actively working with brands, industry groups, recyclers and regulators. This isn't a journey which can be made alone. In order to enable eco-design, a holistic view is essential from the perspective of the raw materials all the way to the product's recyclability. So our eco-design approach is not only internal, we're also looking outside to educate our ecosystem on the best use and selection of our labels, looking into new raw materials that are available, both renewable and recycled, considering the new requirements in packaging from the brand owners, to new requirements from recyclers on new ways of recycling, and finally staying aware of legislation changes at the EU level and country level to be aligned with the legislation, how it differs within the different markets. Collaborating within the ecosystem helps all the companies involved become more sustainable because of the increase in focus. We then have sustainability designed into the products from the very beginning, and the more often we do this, the more efficient we become in developing appropriate products. That means we develop products using less energy and resources, which is key to reducing environmental impact. And on the innovation front, this has been shown repeatedly to be beneficial. Innovation capabilities are improved because of the input from all partners, focusing on new requirements and resulting technologies. So it really is a win-win. Sustainability and innovation go hand in hand. And if we now move to Ecodesign itself, the benefits of that are clear. We know that 80% of the product impact is initiated at the design stage, as we've just said. We're seeing growing demand from end users and brands for recycled content in the materials they use. We're seeing a move towards monomaterials in the desire to simplify and aid the recyclability of products. We're seeing growing interest in biomaterials and combustibility. And again, what we're seeing as an industry, I think, is reflected in what's going out there in the streets. So for us specifically, this means that we focus on manufacturing, so reducing our waste, using less of each material, and then therefore using less energy. And this protects resources and reduces emissions. We focus on materials which are easily reused or recycled. And to ensure easy disassembly, we need to use materials that are easily identified, reused or recycled. And to close this loop, we're continuously working to increase the recycled content of all of our materials, whether they're filmic or paper. And we're working to progressively increase the recycled content of our products as we recognize that the requirement for percentage recycled content translates to the components of a product, including the packaging, and not the overall product. So there were some questions in the early stages of the regulations as to whether or not the percentage recycled content would apply to the product per se or the individual components. We're seeing that it's highly likely that it's going to be the individual components. So we're well underway on the journey. We already have many products with up to 30% or so recycled content. We're trying to take it higher and higher. So we're looking at recycled PET, PE, PP, and paper products. Regarding biomaterials, we're introducing those where we can, but only when we can guarantee that they're not competing with food crops. It's a growing area of interest. We see it as a means to keep plastic, but not plastic as we know currently. In this definition, we don't actually include biodegradable and compostable materials because we see that they need, or they often need special treatments and special collection systems and can disrupt the current recycling processes. And again, actually that was touched on earlier on today. The carbon footprint of a product is impacted dramatically by the length of the life of the product. A sustainable material should be long lasting, maximizing the useful life of the product and reducing the carbon footprint throughout its life cycle. And the required life cycle of products is heavily dependent on the end use of the product. So our products are heavily dependent on the end use of the product that they go onto. So this is another benefit for us of working closely with the ecosystem to ensure that we maximize the lifetime of the product within the remit of its use. Obviously, we encourage products which have multiple uses. That's a philosophical dead cert, and they're suitable for reuse. And we have technologies available to support that. Regarding emissions reduction, we work with the philosophy that products should be of an appropriate size, such that we minimize material use and fuel consumption during manufacture and then during subsequent transport to reduce CO2 emissions. Again, we can reduce grammage, we can reduce thickness, but we can also encourage people to reduce the size as well. And again, with the ecosystem, we need to work with the ecosystem in order to optimize material use and hence also emissions. We can't tell you guys what labels to take. And lastly, innovation, we touched on that already. Innovation and sustainability go together hand in hand. We see that technological innovations can optimize product efficiency and sustainability, and focus on sustainability in turn drives product innovations. So a win-win for everybody. Moving on to the next slide about the waste hierarchy. This is terminology that's been around for quite some time now, but it's evolved from the traditional 3 R's, which isn't reading, writing, and arithmetic, but reduce, reuse, and recycle. And it incorporates remanufacture, downcycling, reprocessing into fuel, waste to energy, incineration, landfill. It's clear that there is a definite hierarchy in this trend. Reduce, even to the extent of avoid, is the preferred way to minimize waste. Landfill is clearly the least preferred route for handling waste, certainly in Europe. In the EU, reprocessing into fuel and waste to energy are currently not favored. Downcycling is tolerated, but not preferred. Regarding the circular economy, which is our current goal, the direction that we're taking, the preferred option is to reprocess waste product back into the same product. So PET bottles back into PET bottles in a never-ending cycle. Clearly, we're not there yet. The maximum number of cycles rarely reaches double digits. And we also know that food contact is playing a large part in the availability for recycle. So in Avery Dennison, we're working hard to maximize our use of recycled content, post-consumer waste, in our film and paper products. And we recognize in order to meet our shared sustainability goals, we need to work with the ecosystem to maintain availability of the recycled materials. Again, one thing which is becoming loud and clear is that demands for 25 and then 30% of recycled content are going to be challenged and constrained actually by the availability of the recycled material. So moving on to the next slide, as we mentioned earlier in Avery Dennison, we work with the ecosystem to develop products which meet their needs, your needs. When we work with you, we'll choose the best options for you and your packaging based on our principles of eco-design, which I think are pretty standard within the industry and broader. In particular, we'll help you choose products with a view to minimizing their environmental impact and enabling recyclability. So one example that we have here is Clean Flake. It's a development which enables recycling PET bottles, allowing the label to delaminate from the shredded bottle and to be separated from the PET flakes. It's water-based, using a recyclable adhesive, which cleanly separates during the process, allows the PET bottle to be recycled, allowing the face stock and adhesive to cleanly separate, and then conservation of virgin PET resources and therefore use less landfill waste. We can also use or align it with liner made from recycled post-consumer waste products. And this passes the highest form of testing available from the Association of Plastic Recyclers. Similar technology can be applied to glass and potentially to other plastics. We're working with the recycling industry and regulatory bodies to determine the design features which are required to enable recycling of different types of packaging. We're seeing some exciting developments in the field of packaging, ranging from monomaterial films to stand-up flexible packaging and paper-based drinks bottles, as mentioned earlier from Coca-Cola. And we're eager to work with the ecosystem to ensure that we play our part in enabling recycling of these novel packaging materials. Again, next slide referring to the ecosystem. Here you can see our value chain. It looks to be very compact until you consider the last category, i.e. the consumer, and at this point it diverges massively. As you'll recognize, labels are everywhere, from goods in the supermarket and pharmacy to industrial chemicals and services. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the process, we produce what we call the label stock in full width rolls up to 2 meters, and then cut them down to usable sizes for the converter, i.e. the printing houses. And the converters in turn supply the printed labels to the user, who applies them to their product. So the size goes lower and lower and lower, smaller, smaller and smaller, and obviously the number of products increases at the same rate, so exponentially. So it's key for us that we work with all these members of the ecosystem to ensure that energy usage and waste are minimized and that recyclability is enhanced. It's a journey. We're not at the end of the road yet, but we see that we can only get there if we work together and we use the eco-design principles. So we have many options available to us. We have flexibility in the face stocks we purchase, and the adhesives which we, to a large extent, manufacture ourselves, and therefore in the composition of the label laminate. We're happy to help bring the ecosystem to the same level of understanding as ourselves. We do regular webinars teaching about the best use of our products. We're active members of PRE, PETCOR, FACA, FENAT, members of the CPA, the European Commission level, members of CFLEX, SETI, Recoup, part of the Holy Grail project, etc. We're also still looking internally at our waste and our internal processes. We're actively involved in C-Lab, which you may have seen advertised quite recently, working with the industry to address the challenges of waste and to make our products more recyclable with regard to the waste. Moving on to the next slide, as mentioned earlier, labels are a composite structure, and we can design with varying combinations of adhesive and face stock. We've got solutions for all main packaging types, and we recommend specific labeling solutions which won't be intrusive when recycling the products at the end of use. The preferred solution currently is to maintain the same chemistry, i.e. the label chemistry should be aligned to the packaging, the chemistry of the packaging, because that aids the recycling process. In cases where a recycling process makes that more difficult, for example, the conditions used in, for example, PET recycling, we recommend the use of our Clean Flake labels, because they can be separated from the packaging, as I've said earlier, and it can be recycled. Compostability is no longer seen as a preferred route for circularity, but it does still address a need in the case of, for example, food labeling. Now I'll hand over to Barak, who'll introduce some specific examples of where we're working towards a shared sustainable goal with our customers. Over to you, Barak.
Yeah, before we move to the examples, first I would like to again say good afternoon to everybody and thanks for joining to this session. and I am very happy to be part of the panel discussion that we had earlier, and also to be in front of you to talk about what we as Avery Dennison are focusing on about this very exciting topic, which is sustainability. And I'm also very proud to be in this journey, not only within Avery Dennison with my colleagues, but with all of you. As Sam also mentioned on his previous slides, it is not, one company's, let's say, strategy or vision to move, but we should collaborate all together to reach wherever we would like to go to. That's why we also count on your comments, inputs, which we take very seriously and also consider when we work on the innovation projects, especially linked on sustainability. As Sam mentioned, we have different solutions which we developed and also commercialized in the marketplace, but these are not the final solutions. We give lots of focus, starting from CEO down to the entire organization, on what else can we do linked to sustainability. And I also see in the last 3 to 4 years, every year the discussion and the intensity that we give on this topic is increasing exponentially. So there is no one meeting where we talk about sustainability or innovation, which is very important. That's why we are open to any kind of feedback, comments from your side during this session or afterwards. Here we just show on one slide what are our solutions available, but I would like to also show you some case studies. If you go to the next slide, the first one is Locales Wasser, which is using on glass bottles our PP face stock material with wash-off adhesive. What does wash-off bring? So you can easily take the adhesive out, remove it, and then you can use it. You can use the bottle up to 30 times. Why we chose this one? It is a local brand in Zurich, and they're also delivering their products in a radius of 10 kilometers. This is, linked purely on sustainability, on the topics that we also discussed linked to sustainability. That's a great niche example that we wanted to share. Of course, this is not one, but this is something special that we also wanted to share with you. If you go to the next slide, here we have another nice example, which is using recycled content label face stock, made from 30% recycled content of post-consumer waste. This is applied on paper or cardboard. So whatever Sam mentioned, it is about monomaterial recycling to make it easy. And this brand is in Sicily, organic Sicilian almond, again, organic products on a paper packaging using recycled content label. There is also a very nice story to tell to the marketplace. Excellent also project that we were involved with. The next one, if you move to the next one, Tim. That is an interesting one, and this is from the country where we live. Sam and I are living. It is in the Netherlands. As you know, Netherlands is full with canals and lots of water. And there is a company called Floating Farm. As you see also on the picture, you have the cows floating, and then they are also growing, and then the milk is being brought to the markets in the major cities. And there, this company is using PET bottles, but on that they use clean flake label. In the previous panel, we also talked about PET recycling. There, it is very important to have as clean as possible PET flakes. And our clean flake label technology enables that. sometimes there is a perception in the marketplace all pressure sensitive labels are permanent, which is not the case. We, as Avery Dennison, being the inventor of pressure sensitive labels, also introduced that product to the market. And we see a great interest, especially in the last 3 to 4 years, to that product, which really enables and enhances PET recycling of the bottles. So it's also a very nice example where this product can be used. I think we have one more case. If you move to the next one, Tim. That one is about tomato ketchup, Zebedee's tomato ketchup, which contains 50% less sugar than the average ketchup and made entirely from natural ingredients. Packaging is HDPE bottles. There is on top of that, recycled content P is being used. And this time it is our 30% recycled resin containing, PE label. Again, less sugar, fully natural ingredients, monomaterial packaging, and also the label having recycled content. While you have a great shelf appeal, we also discussed it in the previous panel. So label is also providing to the brand owners the capability to inform the consumers, to engage with the consumers, while also decorating the product that is being sold. So with this product, we have all these features enabled, improving the shelf appeal, also connecting that to sustainability. As I mentioned, these are few examples based on the table that Sam showed. These are not the only examples, but these are really some niche applications that I wanted to share. If you want to know more about our sustainable solutions, you can visit our website. There we have a lot more information about our product ranges, different specifications on the products, where it can be used. And again, it is up to your imagination. You can use any kind of this material based on your end application, and that makes it also quite exciting. That's why beyond informing, decorating, and protecting your products, now we are seriously putting sustainability as one of the key features on our products. And we will continue doing that at a higher pace in the coming days, months, and years. And I would like to pause now, Tim, and then maybe we go to Q&A parts.
Thank you very much, Burak, and thanks, Sam, for speaking before that. I would like to invite everyone to submit your questions. I see a few of them have come through already. So you can use that. If you missed at the start, you can send your questions to us through the chat function on the Zoom meeting. Sorry, I'm just fiddling with that as I speak to you. So let's take this first question that we've received through the chat. I don't know whether Burak or Sam would like to take this one, but you can decide. So the question is, your clean flake technology looks to be specific to PET. Do you have any plans to roll it out to other packaging types?
So our clean flake technology is focusing on the sink and float technology, and there, PET bottles have different density than the polyolefin based face stocks, and that is a great product that is being used by many brand owners nowadays, and we see also lots of more traction going forward. We started with PET bottles, and also the focus is going to be on PET trays. We also are working on now, what about HDPE and also PP bottles? So one of the streams, as Sam mentioned, is monomaterials, but can we do more? What are the next steps on those kind of plastic packaging? that is also taking lots of our time. We are brainstorming how we can expand this technology going forward. But as I also mentioned in the previous panel, it also depends on the recyclers' capabilities, how it's going to evolve, the recycling conditions. That's why, again, I always underline that we really need to join forces. We need to collaborate all together so that we can define the guidelines and then develop solutions going forward accordingly. That is key for our success, our meaning not as Avery Dennison, but as the entire industry going forward. So there are really exciting technologies out there. We can expand the usage of that. But again, depending on how things will evolve, and we are going to influence and also talk and educate the industry and also consumers accordingly. Anything you want to add, Sam, to what I said?
No, I think it's a good summary. Thanks, Brett.
Okay, thank you, Barak. Okay, so another question here. You've said that you're experts in eco-design. In what aspect in particular? And the questioner has asked, do you use LCA as your basis or some other approach?
Historically, we've used LCA, and we're in the process of upgrading, I would say, upgrading our process. So we have something which has been tailored for Avery Dennison. We have key parameters in there which are linked to our manufacturing unit to enable us to understand what the implications are with regard to energy usage, transport, and all the standard LCA parameters. So yes, LCA is fundamental, but we also are rolling out an in-house sustainability eco-design process. And there we're looking into the product itself, as in the raw material itself, whether it's recyclable, what the recycled content might be of it, where it's produced, is it sustainably sourced, is it biomaterial, or is it not, what impact it might have on the energy consumption in manufacture, and then in logistics, the product itself in use, the impact on that, on greenhouse gases, for example. And also material reduction. So we're sort of hitting it from both ways. If you go through the LCA routes, then it has to be really very detailed in order to have maximum value. So we've tailored our own Avery Dennison eco design system as well, so that we can, for every product that we're developing, we can start to quantify the sustainability parameters. And obviously, on any of those aspects, we're happy to work with any of our customers or suppliers to help them understand what it is we're trying to do. So holistically, together, we can get there faster.
Sam, I would like to add, few comments on whatever you said. So we also talked about education, educating the consumers, but it is also educating ourselves and also taking into consideration the sustainability aspect when we start working on new innovation and on new project. I think eco-design as a concept will help at least our organization not to forget about the sustainability aspect and start designing your products from the first moment on accordingly. I think that is a key change that we are going through now as an organization. I also mentioned that in the previous comments that I made. Sustainability is one of the key points that we discuss. Not only discuss, but let's execute. Let's also embed that to whatever you do. And that's why, this eco-design thinking is started to enable us to move to that direction.
Thank you, Barak. Great. Okay, we've had some more questions from the audience. So there's another question about Clean Flake, asking how competitive it is in comparison to existing PP and PE based labels.
So I can answer that question, Tim. So the PP or P or filmic label materials are being, let's say, produced and consumed in very large scale. So if there is 100 units that is being sold as such products, maybe Clean Flake technology is just a small portion of that. Because of that, of course, when you look to the scale, there are different, cost dynamics involved, and also the technologies that are being used on the traditional, let's say, label solutions is different than whatever we are now focusing on. Our intention and main focus nowadays is to reduce the cost gap of such new innovations as much as possible, because when it is not only the product that is available, if it is also cost efficient for the value chain, it will ramp up. So we, as I said, exponential focus on sustainability, and we also would like to increase the sales of such products or consumption of that products exponentially in the coming years. And that's why one part of our innovation focus is to develop such products. When we do that, we would like to do it at cost-efficient way at the start, if not, in the coming years. That is also a key point for us when we go through the innovation process.
Thank you. Okay, here's another question. What is the adhesive technology behind wash-off adhesive? Is it acrylic or hot melt or both? Is it necessarily semi-permanent adhesive? That's a very specialized question, well above my pay grade.
That is a very specialized question. Well, the water solubility can be achieved with either technology. And whether or not it has to be permanent, well, if it's water soluble, it can only be permanent in a dry environment. So the two are, it's a bit like developing something which is water soluble and water resistant at the same time. So the two are competing technologies. But whoever put that question forward, if they want to ask us more, if they've got something in mind, if they want to ask us more specific questions with regards to product development, then come this way and they can follow up with us afterwards.
Great. Okay, good. Okay, another question from the audience. Do you think it would be a good idea to have a grading system as we have, for example, in energy efficiency of electrical goods like A+, A, B, C, down to F, that would be based on moving towards a more resilient planet on a holistic basis? So I suppose this is an opportunity for us to provide more information on labels, isn't it, about the overall sustainability of a package?
That's a great question, actually, Tim. Maybe in the near future we might have it, but there is lots of discussion happening now on sustainability, which is sustainable, which is not, and it will evolve, I think, with the time. And then hopefully we will also see, have more concrete understanding on what is happening and what is good, what is not good. I would actually personally would love to have something like that, but maybe it is too soon to start discussing about it. As I said, the industries and we all are now finding the right answer about what is sustainable, what is not, how are we going to rate that, etc. So for me, the most important thing is that all these discussions, thinking process has started, and it is also accelerating, and sooner or later we might come to something like that.
Yeah, that feeds into the sorry, Barak, I missed the last bit. I was asking to Sam what is her opinion.
I would agree. I would say it also touches on the need for transparency. And again, I think that was mentioned several times earlier on today by the panel, that we need to work together. And so if we did have a level of transparency such that you could grade the impact of everything from A to E, then to be honest, I think that's the way everything will go ultimately, so that the consumers can make educated decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah, that does touch on a lot of the subjects that we spoke about in the earlier panel today around standardization of how we interpret and communicate sustainability credentials, and also the importance of communication. And there's, I suppose, a related question here, talking about not just the sustainable properties of the label itself, but its communicative capacity. And we have one of the audience members asking about smart labels. Obviously, that's something Barak mentioned briefly in the earlier panel today, and asking what are the main sort of opportunities for making a contribution to sustainability through smart labeling.
So maybe I will start, Sam. We are always looking at, so with smart labeling, we should think a little bit broader. So in the value chain, whether, it can help us on the logistics management, on reducing, we also discussed about that food waste, if the freshness of the food, shall we use it before, etc. It opens a huge opportunity or a huge space for us to think also about sustainability a little bit differently than whatever we discussed also earlier today. I think, when people start to understand the value of, these intelligent labels or smart labels or however we call it, again, people will start implementing that in different applications, and then we will learn, and then we will build on that all together. If you ask me whether I have any strong opinion on that now, yes, it will help, but where, I don't know. But a good example is, as we said, food waste will become a big issue going forward. Why are we going to put into the trash 30 or 40% of the food that we purchased, or at the supermarkets or in the value chain, they don't reach the consumers? So there is a huge opportunity, as human being there to improve. An intelligent label will definitely help there from the sustainability perspective.
And if I can just add, the full transparency of the value chain, so you'd be able to supply information about the origins of the product, how it was produced, about the chemistry, without having to use specific sorting processes at the recyclers, for example. Everything that you would need to understand in order to simplify the recycling, the reuse process could be there. So I mean, they're a little bit utopic, smart labels, because smart can mean absolutely anything. But yeah, again, for transparency, for communication, it has to be of great interest.
Sam, in some countries, people are, people think that they are buying biological products. Maybe they are not. But when you have such intelligent labels, then you would know, you would be certain that this is the case. We are always looking at, developed countries, but when you go to developing countries, there things are, different than whatever we experience here.
Okay, thank you. So we've had another question. This one is asking about labeling for biodegradable plastics. Are you able to use labels that are suitable for biodegradable substrates?
Well, biodegradability is sort of evolving at the moment. So biodegradability and compostability and home compostability are sort of going hand in hand. And certain of the nations in Europe are looking for products which are only home compostable when they're classified as compostable or degradable. So that brings us a challenge. There are limited products out there which are truly home compostable, except maybe the leaves off your trees. But it's on its way. We're actively working on it along with the rest of the industry. And then with the biodegradability, the challenge it gives is that it can contaminate the current recycling processes. So if the product isn't clearly labeled as being biodegradable, then it can actually have an opposite effect to that was intended when it was first designed. So it's one of those things where labeling of the labels becomes quite important as well.
And also, we also discussed in the previous panel, Sam, about sorting. So sorting would also become very important when we would like to have the right recycling. So as you said, biodegradable needs to be separated. Sorting would be also important. Again, I maybe underlined that 10 times. That's why this collaboration is key for success altogether.
Okay, thank you. We've had a couple of questions that touch on the same subject, which is the cost of investing in more sustainable labels. So I wonder if you could rather than asking them as separate ones, I wonder if you could talk about this issue of paying a premium for sustainability in your labeling.
Tim, I think that is also linked to whatever we discussed with Clean Flake. So, you know, we are also buying raw material from suppliers. We also have the same discussion with them, and then the answer is the same. So if I produce 100 units of normal material, and if 2 or 3, then you have different cost structure. But I believe that, you know, when it starts going up, then the price difference will not be, you know, will go down. And also, secondly, for me, the biggest challenge that we see in short term coming is the availability of such material, because we also discussed that together with, you know, some brand owners today. Everybody wants to use recycled content. But that material is quite limited versus the virgin material that you can buy, because, you know, we have been using that for many years. There are lots of capacity available for virgin material. Recycled content is just, you know, developing now, and that's why I expect that, you know, such price difference will exist. But we are also going to work towards the direction to bring it to price parity or cost parity as much as possible. And I think to whomever I talk, that is also one of the key objectives that they are working on from the raw material side.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another couple of questions come in. So one of the audience members has noted that your examples that you gave, Burak, were primarily of sustainable label collaborations with quite small brands. Are you also working with any of the big players? I suppose this is important in terms of opportunity to scale up the volumes of sustainability in labeling.
Indeed, Tim, we are working with really big brand owners, and again, when we talk about some business cases, you know, we cannot mention their names because we need to also get in touch with them. But I have some other, you know, such examples. But we also need to get permission to use their name, their brands, or on which product it is being used. That's why I cannot share it with the audience now. But what I can say is, on top of the existing products that they have on their existing solutions that they had in the marketplace, we are also in periodical contact on new projects, new initiatives. Where else can we put the product? What do you need, so that we can also develop? So we are having weekly, bi-weekly discussions, not only at European level, but also at global level on the next steps.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just looking at the next ones. Still got a lot of engagement. So we have another question here asking about the potential higher migration risks that come from mixing materials without secured or guaranteed source origin. Just trying to, I don't totally understand this question, but so as it's phrased, it says, what about recycling or reuse versus potential higher migration risks due to mixing materials without secured guarantee source origin?
Is that a reference to the chemical recycling focus on at the moment? Back to food use. I guess. Well, I don't know. Maybe
let's take it in that context anyway. I apologize to the questioner if we've misinterpreted your question.
So I guess that's the reference to the fact that if you reuse a product, then there's a risk that whatever was in there before is going to have a negative effect. And that's exactly the reason why it's much more difficult to use recycled product currently in food use. So I think the regulations will have to run alongside the recyclability urge in order to ensure that everything that's done is done safely.
Food grade is very sensitive topic, of course, Tim. But also we heard in the previous panel that the brand owners were talking about cosmetic grade, detergent grade. So there might be some other grades that they are using. But food is very sensitive. That's why the entire industry needs to be very careful in what they are going to use on food. Yeah. So that is what I also wanted to say. But this is not the only grade, as far as I understood, that they are using. So there are also different grades where such products can be also used more often.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one more question. First of all, a remark and then a question. So for decades, Linerless labels have been around, but for commercial use, the market is very niche. How does Avery Dennison look at linerless labels and promote its use for commercial scale?
May I start, Sam?
You may, I'm interested, yes.
Yeah. So linerless is a very interesting concept. There, you take out the liner, and then the perception in the market is that you get rid of one of the components in your construction. But when you also look, that liner has a functionality. So with that liner, we can have different shapes on with labels. You can dispense it at a fast speed, which also has a tremendous impact on the cost of the end-use product that is being brought to the consumers, and many other advantages as well. So we, as Avery Dennison, are focusing on linerless for some time, but the key challenge that we see is whether you can replace the current, let's say, application in an efficient way. So what are the upgrades that the end users needs to do in order to have it? And also, secondly, we talked about label shape. How are you going to dispense? How are you going to separate those kind of labels are really key questions that we need to answer. So that is one of the solutions that we are working on, but it is not the only one linked to sustainability. That's why I gave many examples when we went through the business cases.
Okay, thank you. We've had enough. Sam, did you want to add anything to that before I go to the next question?
No, I would just say that it would be very difficult to have a discussion about the sustainability of labels without introducing the concept of linerless. Mm. And as the questioner said, currently it's niche, but we are looking into how to unniche it.
Great. Okay, so here's another question. Does food grade PCR packaging in cosmetics go into food grade recycling streams? Is that even possible, or should it be in the future? And what is the difference between food grade PCR and cosmetics grade PCR?
Post-consumer recyclate?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
That's a very good question.
I don't know. This is more for the recyclers. So this is very technical and beyond my knowledge. As I said, cosmetic grade was discussed by one of the brand owners in the previous panel. Okay. And honestly speaking, I don't know all the details. I cannot comment because this is out of the scope of whatever we do.
Fine. What I can say is to that questioner that next week on the 3rd of December, we have a session that's very much looking at end of life perspectives, and we will have some people with some much more direct waste management and recycling expertise. So perhaps you'd like to. This is the interactive part of it. I don't need to complete that sales pitch because the questioner has confirmed they will be there to ask that question there to our other panel.
We recommend the person who asked the question to join the panel or session next week, please.
Yes, indeed. This is the beauty
Thanks
of
for the question. It's really great question. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. I would like to hear the answer to that as well. Right. Well, I think we've more or less run out of questions, and we are running out of time. So thank you very much for everyone who's participated in this very first experimental interactive session. I'm really delighted with the amount of engagement we've had and the great questions that you've shared. And thank you very much to Sam and Burak for your presentation and sharing your knowledge here.
I would like to thank to everybody who joined. Of course, virtual is, we do it for the first time. I think so far it went quite smooth. But on the other side, we missed the interaction maybe during coffee breaks. Hopefully next year the situation will get much better, so that I will have, or Sam will have, the opportunity to meet everybody in person. And when we meet in other occasions, we haven't seen you, so also please let us know that you were, you participated to this discussion, so that we can build on whatever we discussed today. Really appreciated that you worked with us together. Thank you all.
Yes, indeed, and thanks to everybody for being part of the guinea pig exercise. I'm glad we piloted it successfully.
Yes, well, we have been learning a lot from our mistakes in our adventures in virtual content over the last few months, but I feel like we didn't make catastrophic ones today, so that's a win from my point of view. I'd also like to just tell the audience, I know that quite a lot of people joined after we began, so we will edit this video and then make it available. So if you did miss the start of the presentation, then you can come back. We'll share that on the event platform. I think that's it for now. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And you're welcome back to future sessions of the Sustainable Packaging Summit.